Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for the panel being here today, specifically for the help that we need in rural Iowa. I was just in Des Moines, Iowa yesterday at MercyOne Hospital, talking with a nurse as she was conversation with a patient who was getting their update as they went. We could see even during that quick conversation from a metropolitan area to a very rural area how challenging it was based on latency versus the amount of times that we dropped and were interrupted versus trying to keep that patient engaged. Now, if that patient had a critical issue, if it had been one of our veterans who needed assistance, if it had been somebody who had a life-saving recommendation coming from their physician, unable to have that communication, I think that we would put us all in a very dangerous spot. The alternative was that patient could have driven 2.5 hours to Des Moines to try and get the assistance they needed. A single mother leaving their job, coming to Des Moines, when at the same time somebody in a community right next door had unparalleled access to it. Which gets me to my concern that my home state right now is 45th in the nation for broadband access and is the second lowest speeds. So at a topical level, yes, are we covered? But is it effective use of the internet? Absolutely not. To fix this, I have introduced a bipartisan Reconnect Rural America Act alongside many of my colleagues in this room. We think it is very important to become part of the Farm Bill conversation. Our bill would make permanent the Reconnect program and expand broadband access to increase speeds in rural America. Now, Mr. Essay, I know that you feel differently than I do on this, and I think that we can get to a point where we can help a lot of these folks. But my concern here is that if you've ever tried to plant precision agriculture with a delayed speed, you're losing crop. If you are a person in immediate medical need and you have a delayed speed, it's almost like having no internet at all. Or if you're just an individual who's trying to improve their education and you have latency here, whether it's an urban area or a rural area, you're being left behind. And I think we all agree that's unacceptable. So I'd like to speak specifically here to Ms. Bloomfield on your comments as well as Mr. Matheson, the 100 up, 100 down, and the robust middle mile. Now, how would you respond to the difference between no access or delayed access or diminished access? Because in my mind, they're all not enough access for what's necessary. Ms. Bloomfield, I'll start with you.
So you, first of all, thank you for your leadership and thank you for the legislation that you've introduced. It's very important, I think sets the future stage on the right course. So when you reference latency, I will just share that when you talk about the livestock, we've got a lot of folks who actually run livestock sales. So, latency, you've just lost, the ability to either purchase or sell something if you're not being able to do it in real time. I think all of that, and when you look at the symmetrical speeds that you've set in your legislation, it is really to ensure that rural Americans aren't second-class citizens, that they are able to receive the same robust services that those in urban areas of the country receive. And I think that is a critical reset for this country.
I'd like to turn further to, thank you, Mr. Matheson. On the Reconnect side, for our broadband networks versus just keeping what I would call low-grade infrastructure, everything in the future, from our combines to our refrigerator to our medical devices are going to be connected to this. Talk to me about the long-term needs of rural communities and how broadband high speed is going to be essential for this.
Yeah, I'll echo, I appreciate your leadership on this legislation that you've introduced. Look, we all know that the internet and use of broadband is only increasing in terms of it affects every aspect of our lives. In rural America, there have been challenges. The pandemic helped highlight some of those challenges when it came to work at home, when it came to school at home, when it came to access to health care. And so I don't think we need to make that case. I think that is settled, that we all agree there's value in having access to real broadband. And I appreciate your comment about the difference between the fully served or underserved or not served. And I made some comments earlier about the fact that let's be careful about simplistic description of unserved versus underserved. Right. It's not that simple. Right. And that while unserved clearly deserve service, the underserved do too, if it's not adequate.
And let's not leave them behind on that. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. I know that's where we all want to get to ultimately. Yeah. Mr. Hurley, I'm going to change topics very quickly, ask you, as a guy who served in cybersecurity for quite a while, as we roll out this new infrastructure, talk to us specifically about the vital equipment that's essential so that we can maintain good hygiene throughout the network.
Yes, I think, as you look at the technology that's coming on and the connectedness of it, I would encourage this committee, when you think about cybersecurity, think about food security and ag security because, and I would equate that to national security, because today, and as all these gentlemen and ladies do their job, we become more connected. It's not just a single tractor, it's not a planter, it's a sprayer or a hog house or a poultry farm. They are all connected and can all be vulnerable, and we need to give that the focus that it deserves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My time has expired. I yield back, and I appreciate all the ag references in today's briefing as well. Thank you.